What is going on, good people? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Say That Podcast. And y'all know the drill. If my audience can help me, don't say this. Say that. You already know. And you guys may have seen by now, we are in a different location in AOA Studios. That's because this is a very, very special episode. This is episode 100. We finally made it this far. You know, we debuted October 2020, and now here Say That is live at AOA for episode 100. And I can't be more thankful for everybody who's in the room right now. Could y'all give a quick round of applause for yourselves right now? Come on, let's go. You already know. All right. Of course. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you all, as Lil Wayne said. But before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do my regular intros. Of course, you know where to follow me on Instagram, REPETE617, and say_that_pod for the podcast Instagram. Now, this is going to be a little different episode. For this episode, obviously, a celebration of the history of the podcast. So I'm going to bring back four of some of the most important people who have been on this show before. You know, my constant supporters. Everyone who's in there is honestly a constant supporter, but these four gentlemen that are going to introduce here today are some of those desirable people that I really just have a lot of love for, and it's good to see them grow from their journey when they first came on Say That to where they are now. So this is going to be a very, very special episode, and I really want to thank everybody for it. I'm going to give a quick shout out to start it. You know, if you've been supporting me since day one, thank you so much. You know, it's hard to be a creative out here. I think everybody who's a creative in this room can attest to that. There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of, wanting to give up, but it's how you fight through that matters. And I think that's a testament to this podcast because a lot of people know that we were gone from podcasting from December 2021 to August 2023. And if you've heard the story 1,000 times, then you already know. If you haven't, come up to me and I'll tell you because it's a long story. But the fact that we're here now for episode 100 is a very, very special moment. And I honestly can't even believe it. So how about we get this thing started right? And we're going to bring in the first guest. This man just came back from Charleston, South Carolina. It's the microphone Maroon. Yo, can we give a round of applause for Tiggy up in here? What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy?
It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, you're back on, right? Episode
Numero
69.
100.
That's a nice one, too.
Episode 69.
Right.
Now we're up to 100. That was, January 3rd of 2024.
Yeah, we just started the year off that, too. That's crazy.
You've been working, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Absolutely. But you're back home from Charleston, South Carolina. You know, how you been feeling these last couple months or couple weeks that you've been home?
So a couple months I've been back. Definitely overwhelmed with joy as well. Definitely a lot of rebirth that I've been feeling. Doing a lot of the things that I used to do feel twice as exciting. But also I think there's a lot of afterglow of things that I miss in the operation of my lifestyle in Charleston too. So naturally just soaking up all these thoughts and trying to move forward based on all of that,
Well, I got to speak for everyone in the room here. It's good that you're back home because we did miss you. You know what I'm saying?
I missed you too, buddy, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, buddy. You know what I mean? Because the few times that you did come back, it's like, we wish you hear you a little longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's good you're back home because you rep Boston proudly in your music. You rep Italian. You know what I'm saying? We got it right here on the flag. You took a picture of me. I was looking a little crazy at the Cantab show, but you know what I mean? You got an eye. He's got it. Listen, if you know Tiggy, he's got an eye for photography.
See the shot, get the shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout
you
out
see
Mike
it?
Scarfo as well.
Right,
And
exactly.
Robbie Rowe. And
shot by Scarfo is going to be shot by Tiggy soon. You know what I mean? But, you're a very, I feel like you're like a journalistic person. You capture a lot of life's moments.
I try to tell the story and paint some pictures. I try to look into the details of what I'm, picking up from somebody and utilize the understanding of what they're good at and how I can help them or just even being somebody that roots them on, and hopefully they'll do the same for me.
Well, because you root people on, bro. If you ever seen this man's IG stories, you're going to be clicking for a while because he's shouting every single person out he sees on his Instagram feed. And that ain't a bad thing either.
The mentions. We do the mentions.
Yeah, sometimes you even overstay your mentions. You're like, oh, yeah. Tig, you can't post no more, bro.
This is the answer. The microphone, I don't. What you see is what you get. What you hear is what you get.
I love it. So I want to know, how did you come across Say That Podcast?
Say That Podcast. The first time that I believe that I met you and came across Say That Podcast was in December of 2022 at a Bars of a Bars media show, and you were co-hosting that event at
Was it
the
in
Jungle.
Bridgewater?
It was at the Jungle in Somerville. And then I think the first episode that I saw was Jeff and David, and then I saw Nique, and those were 2021 episodes.
Those were Staples episodes.
Those were staples.
Yeah.
There was freestyles on them.
Yeah.
It really painted the picture of the vision, I think, early on. So, it was very clear. Obviously, Mike was with you too, and, at the time, and you guys were really doing a lot and really, rinse and repeat.
Right.
Repeat.
Exactly.
Rinse and
right.
repeat.
There you go. Right. So. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Because it's cool you mentioned, the Staples era, because for a lot of people, that was people's first introduction to the podcast.
Yeah.
And kind of, this is obviously a historical episode, so I'm going to kind of go over the history. That was a crazy time. You know what I mean? Because we literally just jumped right into it right off bat. Compared to now, everything's different. We were shooting our own episodes. I remember, and Jeff and David, they're in the audience tonight, spoiler alert, but they know I had to get up sometimes, stop the camera, and restart the camera, which was just like, it got to a point where it's like, all right, this isn't doable no more because this is kind of getting annoying.
You guys were doing it from the ground up, though,
right? Exactly.
So.
It was a ground up thing, and like we had to do our own edits. We had to hire different people, but like that's why when AOA Studios comes along, that's why it's the game changer because I don't have to edit it. I have Mike Scarfo to edit it. Not that I'm lazy. It's just he does a way better job than me. That's the point. But altogether, comparing Say That to the AOA era to the Staples era is just so. It's a tale of two cities.
No, yeah, and it's like you and I have talked about in the past too, because I don't think I knew at first, and I remember asking you, I was like, but what about those other, episodes with the Oakwood tables and stuff, and it looks like the Apple Store. You're like, yeah, well,
right.
Those are the Staples episodes.
If anybody knows
what
what TJ's talking about, you saw the iHeartRadio thing, but everyone used to think, oh, that's them. They got an iHeartRadio deal. It's like, we really didn't, bro. That just looked good for the cameras, honest to God.
He's honest.
Right. But anyways, yeah, of course.
Keep it a buck, red, white, and green.
But, what's the one thing you've been loving about being back home in Boston?
One thing I have been loving about being back home.
Other than Umberto's, obviously. But.
Well, okay, so I'll just give you one thing then, because that was the first thing. One thing, definitely a lot of food that I missed out on, burritos and taquerias, but also being in the community of music in the city of Boston. It's grown a hell of a lot since I kind of started recording here before I moved to Charleston in early 2022. And I think just the community's grown so much. I see a lot of people connecting that I didn't know even knew each other, that I had met separately and banding together. I think the East Coast has a lot to offer, and I've had the ability and the privilege to, be able to see that and be a part of it, be immersed in it, and be part of the culture, and be an artist and curate events in another state that I'm not from as well. So I'm super excited to see what the future can build, and I have a sense of community in both places. I already had one here, and I built one there, and I hope that other people can come along for that ride, because that's a goal of mine, regardless of what I need to work on or improve, or, what I may be, feeling not like I'm at the best version yet for myself. But I definitely feel like that's just inevitable for a lot of the people that are in this room, as well as just, the city of Charleston. Shout out Charleston. They really helped me build into it's almost like a dream come true, the path of life I've been on since I was 16, even 13, making music. So I'm lucky.
Because, if anyone knows you, you're easy to talk to. You'll come up and talk to people before they come talk to you.
That's it.
And I think when you moved to Charleston, I think that's why I was thinking in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be easy for TJ. You know what I mean? That'll be easy for him to actually get to know people down there, because you're a reference guy too. You're dropping all these references on us and stuff like that. I feel like you could write your own movie or something like that.
Own, quick-witted.
You like Seth MacFarlane with it sometimes. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So seeing your evolution from the Charleston move, and obviously when you were on here for episode 69, you were still in Charleston at the time, but now you're back, and now it's like.
I remember that time too. I had strep throat twice in that month, and I came home.
Damn,
for
you
Christmas.
coming on my podcast sick or something like
buddy,
that?
Well, no, I wasn't contagious then, but I was still taking antibiotics, which was like, oh my god, dude.
Right.
So we've come a long way.
No,
that was
really
a painful
have.
month. 2 months.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So what did you take away? Because that was I'm your first ever interview, by the way, on Say That podcast. I'm a lot of people's first time.
Although that isn't technically, that isn't actually true though.
I'm not your first interview.
Tempa Zone podcast with Amir Max.
Oh,
I was
damn,
on
I forgot about
a year
that.
before that.
I feel bad for forgetting about that.
No,
too.
and these are Say That and Tempa Zone are the first podcasts that Tiggy ever knew about in this planet, like that put local artists on. So shout out to Say That podcast. Shout out to Amir Max, Tempa Zone podcast as well.
That's another former guest to Say That podcast, by the way. People forget that. So how have you grown since the last time you've been on Say That podcast? How's the journey been? Because it's been a year, and a lot can change in a year.
The journey has been very interesting. When I had left you and went back to Charleston that January, the following month I began curating events for primarily hip-hop artists, singer-songwriters as well. We had a couple poets as well in the mix at this place called Sweatman's Garden in Charleston, South Carolina. Shout out Sweatman's for, letting us have, a small residency there. And we did 10 total shows there that I helped curate. Also, my buddy Keon was also on those shows, and he is somebody that is from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and we've made some music together as well. So shout out to him, Dustin McFalls, who kind of got singer-songwriter music started there, and allowed me to kind of come in and help out with some curation there too. So the goal was to bring people together, in a unique environment that was an alcoholic and non-alcoholic bar. With a lot of cool homemade drinks, 40 plants on the wall, and just a nice aesthetic setting. And
It's like some 36s. There's a beer on the wall. You got all right, okay, TJ.
We had a nice crowd, so we were having a good time.
Real quick, this is why I love TJ. He's so descriptive about everything. I feel like I'm seeing it through his eyes. You know what I mean? Bro's like Wes Anderson or something like that.
So you got to paint the picture, but
right.
That was something that I really found that I could help other people. Help to promote my own music, make new connections. And a lot of the people that I brought in there, I had already built great connections with, or they may have already had me on some of their showcases. So I was really fortunate in that sense. Later in 2024 was definitely a rocky road for me.
Which we don't really got to get into.
Oh, yeah. No, it's
type
like
shit.
I said.
He's still standing, though. You know what I mean?
We're still standing, definitely needed a sense of family and to come back home and, be in a better spot so that I could readjusting the wheel. Yeah. You might see a song with that title in the future related to my debut album, Reinventing
you reinvented it first, but now you got to
That's it. That's the type of time we're on. So
see, I'm a little curious because a lot of people don't know that Charleston, South Carolina can have like a music scene like that. So how would you kind of what are the biggest differences between the music scene, maybe in Massachusetts as a whole, and specifically Charleston? Because, we know what we got in Massachusetts, but the people don't know what they got in Charleston.
For sure. No, I appreciate you bringing that up, Repeat. I think that's a unique topic because, when you come from a city like ours in the city of Boston, there's a lot of things that drive that city, right? But I think one of the biggest things within entertainment or enjoyment for people, and because, people are tucked away in farther communities, it can be a little harder, but with music, right? So I think big market sports, or even lower market sports, everything is spread out, but everyone knows, you have the most diehard Celtics fans in Haverhill too, right? Or some random town in
New England, pretty much.
It's further,
right.
Yeah. So, in Charleston County, you can pretty much do, I was saying this to Robbie Rowe on the phone earlier because I was talking to him when I was frustrated with something else. But, you band together in a community between James Island, Charleston, North Charleston, and downtown Charleston and West Ashley, right? And you can get most places in those areas of a peninsula on the East Coast within 20 minutes. So similar, 6 or 7 venues is where we're doing a lot of music there, and it brings community a lot differently than in the city of Boston, where it's a denser peninsula, and everyone's in a rush to do things, and somehow you're always interrupting the operation of somebody's life because of how things move here.
Yeah.
So I think those things alone just create a different pattern for what people might be drawn to. But I saw this shirt that somebody was wearing one day in Charleston, and it was a few days before I was moving back home, and I was like, damn, this hits a little and it hurts. But it was the shirt just said, it was a lady, a mom walking around wearing it, and it said, the South lets you play your music. And I was like,
I kind of fuck with that.
It's being from here and spending some time there. Yeah, it was it really meant everything to what I had felt. So definitely, Charleston's a special. I have a new song that's unreleased where one of the lines was
"Don't give it away. Don't give it away. Don't give it away. Let the people wait for it." Gotta let the people wait for it.
Can I just say it? I'm
All
gonna
right.
say it.
All right, fuck it. Yeah.
This
Don't say
this sure ain't Nashville, but believe it's the music city. We really bring the noise like some inspired types of species. So it's,
damn. Okay, Tiggy.
if that doesn't paint the picture for
Hey,
you,
you want to spit a
everybody in
couple
this
more
room,
bars right here, or something like that?
I
Come
encourage
on,
to
man.
travel there. So
Hold up. Hey now.
So that kind of, Charleston's a big music city, man. It's intimate and it's driven on music and,
Shout out Bill Murray.
a lot of different types. Shout out to Bill Murray, a pioneer. He is a
Right.
co-owner of the River Dogs, I believe.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lo-Fi Brewing, a venue that I got to have the pleasure of working at in Charleston and one of the first venues where I clutched a mic and performed as well. So definitely, big part of my life there.
Of course. And well, I could speak for a lot of people here where I could say it's good to have you home, brother. You know what I mean? I wish you were kind of home last year when the Celtics won the title. This year it's a little
too.
different, but you know what I mean? It is what it is. We'll just say we'll leave it at that. You know what I mean?
I mean, if I may just add one quick thing,
Yeah.
this past week has been a tough week for the Boston Celtics against
It
the New
is.
York Knicks. But the sense of community, just like in this room right now, repeat, you and I are always trying to build that up, and
Right.
it's something that we won't stop doing.
In terms of social media, it really hasn't been a tough week for us.
No,
I mean, you know
yeah.
what I mean? And if you don't know, your boy was on Jason Tatum's story. He was on Kevin Garnett's story, which is my all-time favorite player. And I was on SportsCenter.
And your other Italian boy also made the cut.
Right, exactly.
So.
He made the cut too. Didn't expect to, but those are the type of vids you wake up to and you're like, oh shit,
We didn't know our names.
Right now,
we didn't know
right?
our names when we woke up
Yeah,
yesterday
and
morning.
let me tell you something, Knicks fans, I don't give a shit that you beat us. I'm still up in the rent on y'all.
Yeah,
all right?
didn't you to 10,000?
It's 10,000 now, and you got to move to Chinatown. You ain't living on 54th Street no more. So fuck y'all. But anyways,
Repeat mic'd up. Go watch the post if you didn't understand.
right, exactly.
Say that.
You know
Don't
what I'm
say
saying?
this.
I posted on my story at least like 10 different times. If you didn't see that, you see that now. Oh yeah, I forgot to plug in. Get your official. If you could hold that up for the
Yes,
camera
sir.
too. Get your official Say That stickers. Merch coming soon. All right, that's it. All right, word. But before you get out of here, Tiggy, is there any last words you want to say about your time on Say That? What's next for Tiggy in 2025 or anything else?
Shoot, man. I really appreciate the sense of community that I have had in this city and that I still have in this city. Know that big things are coming on the curation side. One thing I just want to say first and foremost, because I feel like I haven't gotten to break into the full phases and stages of what I want to show as an artist as well, that I have been since the age of 13, by the way.
Right.
In a band called One Size Fits Most growing up.
Yo,
as a
he really
guitarist and a
does this
vocalist.
shit. Yo, he does
I'm a
this shit.
guitarist
Okay.
and vocalist by trade.
Yeah, right.
But no, I've really enjoyed rapping for a while. And, shout out to Jeff Porter and David Ryan that really got me in the studio in late 21, early 22 before I moved and kind of, kicked me in the ass and said, hey, listen, if you're super passionate about this and you keep, enjoying this, you got to plug in because we know you've done music. So sure enough, I did. And look where I am now. I've done so much more than I thought I could. But please do not sleep on me as an artist because I have a lot more music coming and I've been a little bit vague with my recent drops. But I have a recent single, Triumphant, is out now on all platforms. It was produced by the infamous Amadeus, who has a radio show on Shade 45 from Queens, New York. And I also just dropped 2 live tracks from Lo-Fi Brewing in Charleston, South Carolina that have already been previously released, but now the live versions are up. I figured that'd be a cool little drop before I get kind of back into
I like
releasing
that
more
because I don't even know any independent artists that are really doing that like that. I like that.
Shout out to Ben Beam, man. He
Good
helped
move.
make that possible by recording the audio. So we both, we used to work at Lo-Fi Brewing together, and he still obviously is a sound engineer there. So shout out to Ben Beam. And Charleston Sun Heater Visuals, edited by Robbie Rowe, shot by Steve Acock, is out now as well.
I love that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was your first guest of the evening. Please give another round of applause for Mr. Tiggy. And wait, real quick, where can they find you on socials or, Apple Music, Spotify, all that?
That is at Tiggy Music Official 7. Don't forget about D Brown. Shout out D Brown, Kenny Anderson, Jalen Brown. And my father for number 7, Tony Patiglio. R.I.P. And before I go, shout out to this man. Say That Podcast, episode 100. Episode 100, round of applause. So, he did that.
You know what I'm saying? Tiggy, I appreciate my time.
Appreciate
Tiggy.
you.
Thank you for coming. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Tiggy. You already know what I'm saying. And the second guest, I'm very, very excited for because this gentleman was introduced to me very early on in the podcast. We didn't get him on till, I forget the number of episode, but it was a little later than it should have been. But I brought him back as well because he had to be at AOA. This is a guy I've quoted the Flow Goat, and he's been on one of my favorite songs of all time, Flow Machines, featuring Jeff Porter and David Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Nique Rose. You already know what's good. Come on, dog. Take a seat. You already know.
Oh, let's get it, bro. My dog.
Yo, because this guy right here could give you a freestyle right off the bat, easy money. Yo, you can do it a cappella. You know what I mean? That's why I called you the Flow Goat. Because the minute I heard you, I was like, yo, because no one ever captured my attention as quickly as you did. And I've told you that a bunch of times, but it's like I got to reiterate because there's like we talk about underrated like stars. Like you up there, you know what I'm saying?
Thank you, bro.
You like a team, like it's like, oh, we need an all-star, I'm gonna take Nique Rose.
That's
on,
much felt.
you know what I mean?
No bullshit, Pete.
Type shit. You know what I mean? Right.
Shout out to you. I always tell people, yo, Pete, he named me the Flow Goat, bro. He's a legend for that.
Of course, right? Yo, and I remember I was like, yo, you got to do the testing lab. Shout out to Museum TV and Noble, another former guest, another great former guest, been on the show twice. And he may or may not have made me some new merch, so be on the lookout for that. But I remember I was like, yo, Nique, he's got the testing lab now. You got to do that shit. And the minute you went up there, yo, you had the whole room's attention.
There and we tore that
and I was
shit up.
telling everybody, I was like, yo, what did I
expected.
I told everybody, I was like, yo, even Mike Sanchez with it. He's like, yo, really, Nique really did. I'm like, what did you expect?
What was that face you said?
Yo, it's just the Russell Westbrook face. Yo, that man nasty.
Yeah,
you had the whole room doing that.
Reaction, you're doing good, my brother.
Right, exactly. You know what I mean? So you have grown a lot since the times you've been on Say That podcast. You know what I mean? You have just dropped a litany of EPs and albums. You dropped a litany of songs. The music's fucking crazy. Just how does it feel, my brother? Come on.
At this point, the consistency is just natural. I could say that. Like, you know, obviously we go through ups and downs what may be the reasons that blocks your consistency as an artist. But at this point, like, as a 30-year-old artist, you know, and been doing this for this long, the consistency is just naturally. You learn to just take the good with the bad and keep doing what you do no matter what.
Because you inadvertently named a Say That segment. Gas, Bass, or Mass and Cass for my real fans there. You know what I mean?
Cass.
Yo, because he was like, Mike Sanchez was like, yo, Nique's got this bar where it's like, it's pretty decent like Bass. And I seen the video because it's still up on your IG.
Like
that was like young ass Nique.
That was young
So I'm
Rose.
like, yo, that's a fucking bar right there. You know what I mean? And you want to know what's crazy? Brandon Bass followed the pod.
Okay.
And then he unfollowed the pod.
Then he unfollowed.
I think he figured it out. I low-key think he figured out.
Brandon Bass, damn.
I think he figured out we were calling him mids, and it wasn't.
We were calling him mids?
Yo, it wasn't like a diss or anything. It's like he ain't great, but he's pretty decent like that. It's like exactly like it's literally bar for bar like you said. Yeah. You know what I mean? So yo,
wasn't no disrespect. It was
no, absolutely not. So B-Bass, if you listen to this right now, we ain't mean no harm, bro. He's still mid-range god, one of my favorite shooters ever.
Right,
but like
B-Bass,
you know what I mean?
Yep.
It was no thing. You know what I'm saying? But
yes, sir.
Yo, so. From the time you first got on Say That podcast, you know, you were just kind of starting getting back into being an artist, you know. So kind of take people through the journey from that time frame in 2021. Because, the two other guests that are going to come on later, you know, you were a Staples baby. We'll call you that. You know what I mean? Like,
so from the time of me first coming on Say
Staples
That to the second time.
basically the second time to now, like, people got to understand the growth. So why don't you tell me about it?
It was definitely a big ass journey. As I was telling my homie, shout out to Jay Mano, that's in the back
in the audience right now. Shout out to Jay Mano. You already know.
I was telling him, the Say That podcast has been amazing. First things first, it's lit. Like, you know, like the production all around.
Gotta get it right,
it's grown with me as an artist. Like, you know, from my first time going on Say That, so you can see how I presented myself from presentation and everything, from presentation of the podcast to where we was just at the last spot to where we're at now. It continues to grow. Right. So like that's how I feel about. It's been a journey. It's been a journey with the music and seeing Say That grow.
That's a fact.
It's been a journey, bro.
And I appreciate that because, and I think it's a very good point. You know, you have grown with this podcast. You know, if we need you for a show, you there. You know, we need you for a couple. Because, the first time he came on, he dropped 4 freestyles. I think people don't remember that.
Legendary.
And then the second time he came on, he dropped another 2. So it's like, this man just wants to fucking rap.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? That's
yes,
it.
Sir.
He just, and the artist in the audience, I think he's got you a little.
What could I say? It feels good. It feels good, man. Rapping.
Right. Of course. You know, you got to love it. But because you dropped, like I said, a litany of EPs and albums, a litany of freaking like songs. You dropped your debut album too as well.
Reassurance. Yep.
So
that was the first one.
I was gonna say that's what you came on here for, and then since then, like I said, the episode was titled "Rose for Reassurance," and then the big thing I want to do with say that is give a lot of people their flowers, but in this case, I'm gonna give this motherfucker his roses.
Thank you, bro.
Because obviously, he fucking needs it, and I don't know how the fuck you 30. You look 25. You know what I'm saying? You Asian like wine, my boy. Come on now.
You know what they say?
No homo, but you know what I mean.
What did I say in the line? Damn, I forgot my line. I was like 30-30s. 30-30 something. 30-30s got me flowing now. Like basically, like that's
you
what my
got too
30-30s
many fire
got
lines
me.
to remember, and that's a good problem. You know what I mean? But like, you into the, and I gotta give a shout out real quick because you just did the Scope Apparel fashion show. You know what I'm saying? Let's give a quick shout out to Scope Apparel.
Shout out to the Scope Apparel, Jake, Dondre.
Actually, PS Jake actually did my logos. You know what I'm saying? He did all my logo flips, and I want to give a shout out to Chairman Chow for making the connect with, because that's another dude. I feel like anytime I see a video of you, it's a Chairman Chow production. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Again, shout out to the Scope Apparel. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Dondre and Chairman Chow. That's my bro. Those are all my brothers, man.
Absolutely.
Got the logo popping. Chow connected me with Jake. Now I got the Rose World shit.
That's what I'm saying. Yo, he did that?
Yeah,
okay,
you know that.
All right, yeah. I figured because that motherfucker is gonna get you right with any branding. You know what I mean? It's like I haven't even met the dude yet. That's the crazy part too. I haven't met Jake yet, and he's done so much for me already.
You haven't even met him, and he's just been.
That's what I'm
networking.
saying. But like TJ said, like that's a testament to how the Boston creative community works. Like it's like, it's not what could someone do for you. It's like what could you do for each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like, as you said, we've grown together. Obviously, making all these connections. That's kind of the testament to what the Boston community actually does.
Right.
And I feel like people don't really get that.
Yeah.
So one thing I do want to explain is like, it's the people that are here to work and they're willing to work. Because like, I've said, and I really haven't said this, but a lot of people that were on Staples, the Staples era, they ain't really doing much right now. You know what I'm saying? The people we've interviewed. And it
sometimes.
It kind of, it inadvertently kind of fucks me up because it's like, it's like I thought they'd be doing shit, but like you really like understand what the fuck people do. That's why it's good to see what you're doing because Tiggy wasn't a Staples era baby, but Jeff and David are. I keep saying baby, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just the lingo, I'm flowing tonight. We flowing tonight. Come on, you know what I'm saying?
We definitely flowing tonight, bro. Shout out to my brother Pete, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Legend out here.
Stuff's working. And we got to give a shout. He's not here right now, but shout out to Jimmy Lax.
Shout out to Jimmy Lax.
You know what I mean? Shout out Laxington, baby.
Everybody been seeing you creep up in the city, bro. Keep doing your thing, Lax.
100%. He just got a child video. That's how you know. Because... And I got to say now that you're here, and it just reminded me of, that's what gives me a lot of joy is how when I see other people that have connected maybe through the podcast or I've introduced to different people working together like that because, and I know this for a fact, you connected with Jeff and David through this and y'all have dropped literally my favorite song. I'll perform it till I'm 99 years old. I've said it, Flow Machines, you know what I'm saying? That's literally like, if someone's like, what's your top 5 like songs from Boston? It's like, that's probably number one.
Machines better be
honest
on
to
there.
God, you know what I'm saying? That's probably number one. I could do that in my sleep.
As much as you help us perform that shit, Flow Machines better be on there.
No, it's 100% number one. You fucking kidding me? Every single time.
Shout out to my brothers, Jeff Porter, David Ryan.
Yeah, literally. So we got to take it back to that 2021 show and this is another person I got to shout out. Here at the MC with Bars Over Bars. Big shout out to y'all. You have helped me through a lot of shows, but that first Jungle show in 2021, and actually, it's funny too. I know I'm getting a little off topic, but yesterday at the time of this recording, I just went on Talk of the Town, and Fly High Uzi was there with Undeniable Sound, and I forgot that he was on that show too.
Who?
Undeniable Sound.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on the bill, right? You may not remember, but it's like, I see it on my phone every day, so it's like, oh, I remember that. But that's what I'm talking about. It literally, so the Say That representees were Jeff Porter, David Ryan, Zay, and Nique Rose. Obviously, they all killed it, and it's good to see that y'all have made that connection through there.
That was a legendary set.
Obviously, as I've said, So how does it feel? Because, I know we made that connection, but is there any other connections you made via the podcast? You know what I'm saying?
I made a lot of connections that night. Like you said, I met Zay. I ended up meeting Zay. Jeff Porter, that was the first time meeting Jeff. David that night. Who else? First time meeting hero in Bars Over Bars. So I met a lot of people that night, you know. So it was definitely a legendary night. We all body bagged that show. It was we still got footage from there. That's just one of the most legendary shows we ever did. This shit was kind of packed out.
You want to know what's the second legendary ever show? And I'm glad TJ brought this up. The Bridgewater show, because that was the first time y'all did Flow Machines.
Oh yeah,
and I remember because I hosted that, you know, because me, you know, that was
the
another
little studio in Bridgewater.
Yeah, A&S. Shout out to A&S.
that.
They've been showing me nothing but love too. But I remember hearing Flow Machine for the first time there. I'm just that stank face.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Like, damn, I think I still got the video low key. That's back in 2022 when I wasn't even doing the podcast. So that's just kind of crazy how, like, you know, even on hiatus, you still got to make moves and shit like that, you know. But, yo, what does 2025 hold for Nique Rose? You know, I'm curious now, bro.
2025 holds a lot of growth for me personally. I got 2 projects on the way. Trying to have one of them out by July. Okay. I've been also getting into the merch shit, as you can see.
I see that. Yeah, I
doing
see. Yo, it's modeling. Fitted up right here.
Shout out to the scope, you know. So a lot of big things this year. Like I plan on getting that project out. Y'all gonna definitely see some merch. I just got the logo rolled out finally. I'm proud of myself, you know. So music, a lot of music this year is coming from me. That's what you can expect.
The
you know?
streets need that too, because, you know, shout out to Jack Bardsley, but you've been on that Boston Big Four playlist a few times, and that's like, yo, that playlist, I love seeing all my boys on there. You know what I'm saying? I do. That makes me humble.
Shout
right
out
there.
to
If
Boston
I could say
Big
that
Four.
to you right there. You know what I'm saying? Owen's not here right now, but shout out to both of y'all. You know what I mean? So I like seeing my boys on there. But
definitely,
you know, if there's any final words you want to say, bro, before we move on to our next guest, they would be very much appreciated. You know?
Last words I want to say, I'm just blessed to be here. Like, we celebrate and say that, just the 100th episode, you know. Shout out.
Because like I said, yo, the people that are coming on this show, episode 100, they played a big role in Say That, and you can't really, you know, tell the history of Say That without Nique Rose.
Right.
So it's like,
so you gotta
know what
bring,
I mean?
so you gotta bring those dinosaurs that been around.
Oh, I ain't calling you a dinosaur, bro. You know what I mean? You've been aging well.
I've been around, bro.
But at least to say that, vets. You
I'm
know
a
what I'm
dinosaur,
saying?
but I ain't extinct.
All right, hey, that's a bar. Yo, I think, I low key just think he dropped the bar right there. You know what I'm saying, right? Yo, real quick. I think, you gotta flip that real quick.
But, he said you gotta use that one.
I'll give you the clip of this right quick. Use it.
Don't worry, we got some freestyles coming at the end.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, a little something.
Shout out to TJ. Shout out to Jeff Porter, David Ryan, Pete. Say That. We here. Shout out to
right
the
now.
city,
Yo,
Boston.
Shout out to Nique Rose. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could, give it up one time for Nique Rose. Come on. Thank you, my brother. All right, no, bro. Peace. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, so far on this show, I have had Tiggy and I've had the Flow Goat, Nique Rose. And ladies and gentlemen, this next guest I have known since 8th grade, No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was 8th grade. All right, it was 8th grade, right? I almost forgot myself. But his growth as an artist has been spectacular. He's done a lot of different creative adventures. He's a great creative himself. Please help me welcome back onto the show in a first time in a while, Mr. 108 World, David Ryan. Hey. Come on. Hey. Muito beijão. Hey, come on, get a blast.
That's enough. All right.
Yeah, all right.
How we doing, Pete? Good to see you.
All right. Yo, because this literally is like, and I feel bad about this, but this is your first appearance on Say That since 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Back at the old Staples,
yeah.
iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
We walked in. We didn't know
where the
what
fuck
we were going.
That's the thing,
you didn't really,
too.
You didn't really tell us, like, hey, you got to go into the
No,
you
right.
got to go into the Staples store.
Right, you actually
and,
have
like,
to walk
talk
upstairs.
to an employee and
no,
like,
you didn't have to. Yeah,
they have to look at you like you have 6 heads,
Right,
and
literally.
then you can get into.
But see, that's why, like, see how you say that? That's why we left Staples. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
How I say that?
Yeah.
Don't
exactly.
don't say this.
Say that.
You guys supposed to do that?
Yeah, they didn't do it. I'm
It's
sorry.
all right, don't
I'm
worry.
sorry, bro. They didn't yell like we did. But yo, David Ryan, the first time you were on Say That was 2021. You were just literally kind of in your infancy as an artist, too.
Yeah.
To put it into perspective, you hadn't done a Bars Over Bars show yet. You hadn't dropped your album with Jeff Porter. You know, you were still kind of in the groove of it. So compare yourself from that point to now, how your journey has been.
Yeah, I mean, when I got with you at the Staples at. Come on. Jesus.
I'm sorry.
Christ.
Yeah, I ruined a nice
When
moment.
we
But anyways.
Nah, I don't even. When we were at Staples doing the show, that was 2021. I had already been doing 108 worldwide as my brand for 5 years now. At that point,
because if they didn't know
4 years, but it was kind of like
right,
couple hiatuses.
You were a clothing brand first.
Yeah, yep. So it was a clothing brand that also I did creative design for all the artists, any artist that wanted me to help them. I just wanted to lend a helping hand and collaborate and just link up with these awesome artists in the city and just see what I can do to help them.
You even did a pop-up at Laced. I remember that for you. I
So
was like, yo, that's kind of big.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you for
because
bringing
I
that up.
had it like, because, you know, me and you, like, but when we, like, St. Mary's and stuff like that, if y'all don't know, we met St. Mary's 8th grade. But
St. Mary's Lynn.
Right, exactly. Shout out to T. Mackin. Shout out to Thomas Mackin.
Brett Malaya.
Right, exactly. Yeah, all of them. Connor Foley. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, hold on. Let me tell a story real quick.
Real quick.
So me and Pete were in 8th grade back at St. Mary's, and we were in science class, and this dude was like, I think I can run like 35 miles per hour. I was like, oh, you're faster than the fastest person to ever live. And he was like, oh, no. He goes, no, that says it on the treadmill. I said, it's just the 35 power. I said, it's not the same thing. It's not, I said, it could be 35 level. It could be fucking 10 miles an hour. But, so yeah, let's just clap it up for the fastest man in the world.
Yo, it's crazy that he said that because I literally remember that because I got roasted so hard for that. Right. That was like borderline traumatized. I was a fucking idiot.
Was that after or before you shaved 2017 Super Bowl champions into your head? Or Celtics champions into your head?
I just shaved the logo.
No, I thought you put champions and then it didn't come true.
No. So, yo, people don't remember this. He's right.
Put a whole Celtics logo on his head.
I did this twice at St. Mary's. It wasn't twice because I was in college at that point.
I can hear you, though. You don't have to yell.
Yeah. So, what I literally see this kind of, it pops up on my Facebook, too. So, when the Patriots were going for the Super Bowl in 2012, I think so there was a place in Revere. Fuck, I forget the name of it. But what they could do was they could shave logos into your head. Like, they did that art like that. Like, if you see it on, like, a video game or something, like, you know, the line designs and stuff like that. And literally, I popped out into school the next day with the Patriots logo on the side of my head, right?
I'm pretty sure you put, like, 2019 champions.
No, I didn't.
You were like one of those dudes, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make sure.
I wasn't that guy. I did the logo because they were, like, making the run and they lost the Super Bowl. So I was like, oh, well, bad luck, right? It got worse. I come back, pause. I do it again. Whoa, so that was February. So I do it again 3 months later for the Celtics 2012 run.
Yeah, that's
in the
what it
playoffs.
was. You did it again.
I got the full Lucky the Leprechaun in my head. On the back of my head.
Took up his whole fucking head.
Hold on a second. I'm finding that picture.
We'll put it on the thing.
I'm finding that picture because it literally took up my whole head. And I looked back at it. I thought it was the fucking man. I'm like, this is solid. This is awesome. People are taking pics of me at school. I'm like, oh wait, they're laughing at me. They're not laughing with me. But yeah, I thought it was the fucking man for doing that.
Hey, shout out to you. And that's honestly a testament to your passion for the sports. And then honestly, I'm not even trying to make a joke. It carried over into this, and you have the same passion. Yeah. Are you still looking for that fucking man?
I can't do it now, obviously. I can't do it now, but...
Move the picture. Let's figure it out.
All right, so that's the Patriots logo. That's the Patriots logo, right? All right, that's the Patriots logo. And there's the Celtics logo.
And we'll put it up on the screen.
I'm going to send it to Mike to put up in the... That's literally the Celtics logo.
He's right, that is on the top of your head.
That's
It
takes up my whole head.
Yeah. Like it wasn't normal.
That was April. Yo, and this is the best thing about this photo. Hold on a second. 1 like, 36 comments. Yeah. I thought it was. I was in that chair for like 3 hours, to be honest with you. I think my mom paid for it too and shit like that. Shout out to moms, but like, yo, literally, because look at the back of my head. He couldn't even take up the things for the
Bro.
for the King
Yo, you have the sneakers on the back of your neck.
Damn, I'm like bald now too. That's crazy.
You're like bald.
No, I am bald.
There we go.
I'll admit it.
But
yeah,
no,
that's
yeah,
nuts.
no, seriously. I mean, that was a good time. That's where I met you.
Oh
And
shit, there you are too, right there. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't want to talk about Facebook era me in 8th grade. I thought I was the fucking man. I was a cringy motherfucker back then. Anyway, stop.
You just had you were passionate. You're passionate. You're passionate about your city. You're passionate about these
That's true.
You're passionate about these artists. It literally carries over. It's the same
I
exact
appreciate
thing, man.
that.
No, I'm being serious.
But you know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, because the point of Say That when it started was a lot of people I knew, and you know, they were friends or just people I knew from, you know, my past. They were artists themselves or creatives at your point, because when we launched, you were just I think you just dropped the song. I think
no,
it was like
yeah,
your
it
first
was.
one.
I think
October
me
2020,
and
so-
Jeff had an album or maybe our second one on the way.
Yeah.
I had already dropped 3 songs, but I was just
You were
still.
s- yeah.
I mean, when I started. So going back to 108 Worldwide, it was a creative. I called it 108 Creative Content, and I realized that I was doing all of this creative work. I was making artwork. I was like trying to think of music video ideas, like promotion for people's singles, all this different things. And I'm like, I'm doing that stuff, but I want to be the artist. Right. I want to be the person that I'm doing that for, because it wasn't as fulfilling. And I'm like, do I have that in me? And I said, anybody does. Like, anybody has it in them to do it. And if you just believe in yourself. So I just said, fuck it, and just started it. And I had no real music background, never really wrote like a lot of stuff at all.
Yeah, but you were a big fan, and I feel like
but I mean,
when you take that and you apply it to yourself,
I appreciate that.
It goes like hand in hand. Because you know, I mean, before we went crazy, you were a big Kanye guy. You know what I'm saying? Travis Scott too and shit like that. Like it was
shout out Travis.
right, exactly, right. Not the other guy, but because we were at the St. Pablo tour. We just didn't realize it. Yeah, you were on the floor in that. Yeah, that was admittedly that was fucking unbelievable.
Yeah,
but
and that's another like
right.
concerts and stuff like that. You just get that feeling, and that was one of like a bunch of concerts that I've been to like that. I've gotten front row. I've had this experience where I'm just like, you can just feel it. Right. You can see it. You could see. I'm like, damn, I want to go backstage and like talk about the preparation of the shit.
Right.
Like, this
want
is
to be
sick.
on stage.
This
doing
is
that
yeah,
shit,
but
right.
like I don't know, just like I love the whole thing. So I don't know. That's where I ended up going with my music, and I know Jeff was extremely passionate about writing.
Right.
Extremely passionate about
Student
music.
of the game. I've told him that a bunch of times.
Smart person. I've known him, and we knew each other. We live about, I don't know, a quarter mile of away. Like, I mean, if you went straight through my backyard and you could end up. It's only like fucking like less than that. You know what I mean? But that's my guy right there, and we locked in. We decided we both love this music shit. We just locked in. We ended up dropping. What do we even have? Like 5, 6 projects together now. In over,
and you got
over
some
5.
yourself. He's got some yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Death Taxes, Jeff Porter EPs. You know what I'm saying? Come on.
So yeah, no.
But the point I was trying to get was, you know, a lot of my friends had done music or they did something creative like you did, but they never got their interviews. They never got like a chance to tell their story. So that's why I feel like people don't know that about Say That. That's why Say That started to become a thing.
Yeah.
Is because like, and I want to give a shout out to Charlie Machine too, because he said when he was on hiatus, we kind of missed, you know, my perspective of things, and that really that stuck with
awesome.
me. But
I like that.
But it's like it's true because you know where I'm from in the North End, a lot of Boston music really doesn't get there a lot. You know, you obviously know what the North End's known for. If you don't know, you can figure it out because I've had a bunch of arguments about this online, but I wanted to kind of be that difference maker. You know what I mean? I wanted to kind of be like, you know, bridge the gap. Because admittedly, I don't go to Dorchester. I don't go to Roxbury. I don't go to. I don't know. I just if you grow up in these certain spaces in Boston, you just don't go there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like or you go there for dinner and that's it. You don't hang around there. But like bridging that gap is what's the most important thing. It's like, all right, what's out there in the music scene that I don't know yet?
Yeah, you approach it with like
you gotta
grace.
learn every single day about it. And I feel like, you know, in your case, when I did know you, but I didn't know Jeff, it was like, okay, now things are like coming together. like that. You know what I mean? Because even right then, which I even still think it's crazy just because of how the journey has been when you look back at it. Like literally, I think a month later, you got on our Bars Over Bar show at the former Surefire Studios. In
So
Lowell.
the last interview we had, you were like, "What's coming next?"
Right.
And we said, "Let's do shows." And
Right.
now it's 5 years later, and I actually think we've done like 80 shows.
Literally,
not even kidding around.
No,
I think
yeah.
between the both of us together and solo, like
I probably think that's a
like
good
60
Yeah,
to some,
at least
60 to 70.
I mean, at
something,
least 10
I don't know.
headlining shows.
We stopped counting after a little
Right,
bit.
no, at
but
least-
it when we get on there, it's just like you let go of everything that you have going on in your life.
Right.
And that's really what it boils down to with this music shit. It's like it's so subjective. It's so personal. It's so like that's why I like what you're doing. You approach it with much grace about every person of the process.
Because we're only human.
Exactly. And what it comes down to, we're all just trying to do this to fulfill ourselves,
Right.
and to be
So full and so
and
filled.
but also at the same time, it's like we're trying to be selfish, but we're also trying to bring together. So it's weird. We're in a very subjective
Of course.
area with objectives. It's
Right,
like,
yeah.
So it's weird, and you just have to approach it with grace, and that's what
Right.
I feel like me and Jeff have been. Feel like we're and not me, just me and Jeff. Anybody that's been around us, TJ, Nique, you,
Right.
Robbie,
Scarfo.
No, I just
Jack
no,
Bardsley.
yeah, all right. I'm not gonna.
Let's go down the list here. Hold on a second. Cam,
Cam,
you know
no.
what I mean? Zafiri's on here. Mike Sanchez. Anybody else?
No, but it's
Chairman
just-
Chow. You know what I mean?
So it's just it's a beautiful thing, this art
It
stuff,
really
you
is.
just we're all telling our stories, but we're coming together
like
as one.
it in a way, myself, in a way, it's weird that I'm here because on that hiatus, I didn't picture us ever being. I literally made a story. I'm like, all right, listen, say that's done. I don't know how the fuck to come back from this. And literally like a year later, I don't know what it was. And this is what I tell people. Literally, I was sitting at work. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just come back.
Thoughts like that can drive you to do something more, like going to your bottom, being like, yeah, like I can't fucking do this anymore, and then you coming back up from it. It's like it drives you even more. So I'm just happy you're here, bro, and let's fucking go. 100th fucking episode, man.
This is literally like, and I've
beautiful.
reiterated this a lot in this episode, but there's a reason why I picked this certain type of guest. If you're not a guest, don't feel in the type of way. I still got a lot of love for you, but like, just like, cause like legitimately, if you told us in 8th grade this is the shit we be doing in the Lord's year 2025, we'd be like, what the fuck?
I wouldn't have. Yeah.
Right,
No,
like-
I honestly never thought I'd ever see this guy again.
No,
Hopefully.
literally. no, ain't no funny shit because
No, I'm
he's
just
right.
kidding around. No, I actually really for real.
No, so there's people I've been to college and high school with that David's I've seen more recently. You know what I mean? So it's like
yeah.
that's the type of shit that goes around like that. So, but. So obviously, you know, I've asked everybody this question tonight so far. What's next for David Ryan in 2025?
I'm trying to bring the clothes back. I'm trying to get a lot of like physical products back. I
Good.
need to. That's where I love that space to live in. Like
Yeah.
expressing myself in that way. But
Bring the chapters back. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, in a way, the music was chapter 6 because
Right,
I used
exactly.
to start. So when I did want to wait more actively, I did them all in chapters. I started with chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4,
Yep.
etc. Just like Groovy did the rules in the cipher. If you know, you know. You'll see it soon. My bad.
I mean,
my
if
bad,
this it'll
they
probably
won't get
out-
it. They won't get it until
No,
it's
it'll probably be out by the time this episode comes out. But yeah,
But no. So in some ways, it ended at chapter 5. In some ways, chapter 6 is the music that I'm on
like
right
that.
now. So chapter 7 coming soon. Then
because you know what it is, you're a good storyteller, and I feel like
I
you
appreciate
take
that a
that
lot.
from the artists you see from. Like you're very, I forget the word. I'm trying to think of the word for it, but like not impressionable, but like you're very like you gain inspiration easily.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I wouldn't say
I like to say
impressionable.
I'm very empathetic to
Right.
to
Because if
people
I say
can
impressionable, I
can
feel like I'm calling you a copycat, but you're not a copycat.
No, yeah.
You understand the business.
Everybody gets inspiration from
right.
everything.
You understand the business. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep,
right.
I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
appreciate you. I
exactly.
appreciate you a lot.
Of course, you know
Thank
what I'm saying. Like this, like I said,
Know what
this
I'm saying?
is,
I do know
this,
what you're
this, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do know what I'm saying. This episode obviously is a long time coming, and the guests on here tonight were a long time coming. So, David, thank you so much, my brother.
Let's
You
get
know
it.
what I mean?
Let's get it,
You know
man.
what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, please give a chat one time for David Ryan in his house. You know what I mean? Maybe emotional a little bit, but so we are on our last guest of the night, and before I get there, I will introduce this guy. I'm gonna give a shout out to a man who's not here right now, and obviously, if you have been paying attention to Say That since we started in 2020, you know who this man is. Mike Sanchez. He has been, one of the constants on Say That podcast. Obviously, he's not doing it anymore, but we can't tell the history of Say That without telling it about Mike Sanchez. So I want to give a quick shout out to him because he's been very integral in the growth of this podcast. He didn't have to come on and do it with me on episode 1, but he did in every episode since then, until we got to AOA. But it's very important that I do say this because, if the way Say That started was very weird, and I've said this in brief a couple of times, but to give you the longer explanation is a kid called Jay Harris. I call him a kid. He's obviously a man. If you're from the North End, you call people kids, whatever. But, right. But a man called Jay Harris approached me at my business in Faneuil Hall in August 2020. He was selling his stuff factory pieces. He was trying to sell it at the carts. It obviously didn't work because we don't sell adult stuff. We can't. But he still stuck around. He still, we remained in chatter and stuff like that. Then in September, he told me that the Staples in City Hall Plaza had renovated and they're now allowing podcasting space. So that was crazy. I was like, I had just come off a communication degree. I wasn't doing shit with it. So I was like, okay, this works. As I told David, it's like I always had that idea of I wanted to highlight my friend's stories. So this is a good way to do it. And he said he wanted to bring in a man called Mike Sanchez. I remember having my first call with Mike Sanchez in my backyard in the year of 2020. And we just understood each other from day one. And then you know the story from there. Episode 1 with Devin Avery, which it was another great episode, and I'm glad we got to do that. But just seeing the evolution of the podcast is crazy because from episodes like 1 through 5, we were doing segments and then the guest, and then we just became all guest. And then, on episode 8, we finally got onto Apple and Spotify. We didn't even know how to get on Apple and Spotify. We were on SoundCloud at first. And then week 16 with Chelsea Mancini, who's a dietitian, I think, or something like that. We were talking to fucking everybody. We finally got on YouTube. We finally afforded the money for a camera. So that's the evolution of the podcast with Mike Sanchez. He was very integral. He's a very people person. If you ever see him in person, get ready to have a conversation for an hour because he's a great conversationalist and literally one of the people that I'm very thankful I met in life, and I miss him a lot. But if we could get a little round of applause here for Mike Sanchez. I know he's not here right now, but Mike, Nique Rose, no, you know what I'm saying? Come on, that's his dog right there. But as I've said, there is no Say That without Mike Sanchez, and you can't tell the history of Say That without it. So shout out to him. And with that being said, this Mike is a fan of this artist, as he is pretty much everyone that's been on the show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, as David has name dropped a bunch of times last in his segment, as I've said in mine, we got to give it up for real smooth Jeff Porter. What's going on, my brother? You already know. All right. So, this is your third time on the platform. You know what I mean?
Man, let's get it over with.
That's tied for a freaking record, technically, yeah. It's not your own episode, but it's tied for a record. But welcome back. Obviously, you were actually were you? No, okay, Rob was. But you have been like one of those guys that when I moved back to AOA, I was like, oh, I gotta get this guy back on. You know what I mean? Because the Staples era compared to now is so much different, and like the palette's been so much more refined that, like, especially with yourself, and I've obviously referred to you as a student of the game, and if you just have one conversation with yourself, that. So how have you kind of parlayed your knowledge of rap into a very successful rap career so far for yourself?
I think what Nique was saying earlier, man, it's just consistency. Like that's what I hang my hat on. Like I think I started in 2020,
Yep.
spring of 2020, and I don't think I missed a month dropping something. No. I'm not trying to gloat and stuff, but I'm just saying, like, I think
Whether
it's
a
important
song,
because,
music
like,
video, no?
if you're an up and coming artist, you can't really afford to, like, be like Kendrick and wait 5 years to drop. You
don't
know,
have
you
the luxury.
haven't afforded yourself enough of like a fan base to really do that. So people are waiting for your next move. People like the last thing. You gotta come harder on the next thing. And I think, you know, working with David has helped a lot because we can kind of, you know, bounce ideas off each other and like compete. Same with Nique, Tiggy, you know, The Truth, like all my guys, like we really have a competitive spirit about us. And I think that's what rap is, you know, and like everybody kind of needs to keep the sword sharp. Yeah. So,
because no disrespect to anybody you've been a song on, but you're always trying to do better than they are.
Always.
You know what I mean? That's just how rap goes. It's rap 101.
Yeah.
But what's very admirable about yourself and everybody in this room actually is you're not afraid to go up to the next person and be like, hey, let's work. But not like, yo, bro, tap me in, my guy. You know what I'm saying? But it's no, literally like, yo, like, let's fucking work. It's like, you know, because seeing you with like different artists throughout the scene obviously has just been incredible. You know, obviously, you know, you and Chuck have collabed with a lot of stuff.
Shout out Chairman Chow.
I'm using his government name. I really shouldn't, but obviously, like you said, you and T got a bunch of stuff together, just the different artists you've collabed with. So how has it felt for yourself to kind of immerse yourself into the Massachusetts music scene? And like I said, like, you know, we talked about just representing Lynn last time, but like really like, okay, like now I know these people in Massachusetts. I can really immerse myself in this.
Yeah, man, it's beautiful because it's all organic, right? Like, you know, I always joke, like David and I or whoever I'm in the music scene, you know, you get those like DMs that go to your private inbox that are like producers like, yo, let's work, bro. Your shit's hard, bro. And it's like, you're in like Sweden. Like, I mean, you might have hard beats, but like, there's no natural connection there. Right. But all these people in the room and like people in the bars over bar scene and just the mass scene, it's like, you know, you're meeting these people in person, you're seeing them perform. You know what they're about. You know that like your taste as an artist might, you know, mesh well with theirs, and it's just like it's much more organic. And it sounds cliche, but you know, I like to work with people that, you know, I think will make a dope final product. Like I'm big on like Rick Rubin's teachings. You know, like his book, which is like the sum of the project is greater than like the individual's ego and like what the artist themselves wants. Right. At the end of the day, like if you make a banger, you make a banger. Like. And shout out to you for putting Nique, like tapping me in with Nique. What we doing now, Flow Machines, like we got a few more on the way too. Like
I remember the first time I listened to What We Doing Now, actually.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Chuck. That was a good video.
I was excited for that. You know what I mean? Because, like David just said, you know, the first time you came on Say That, hadn't done a show yet, and now you've rocked not only with Bars of Bar, but just a bunch of different people. You know, you have really just stamped your name out there, you know, from freestyles on different people's platforms to, you know, you really tapped in with So Ripe right now. Like it's like, and you know, we went to Term's release party like that. Like that's something
shout out
like
to Term, man.
Of course, shout out to Term. That was a great episode that he had on the podcast too, and I'm glad we were able to do that. But you know, you were there. You're like, oh, that's this guy, and that's like that guy, and I'm literally like. I'm like, damn, like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you're not afraid to like make these connections because like people should know you're one like handshake away from like something. You know what I mean? Man, you just never know.
It's that like seven, what is it? The Kevin Bacon thing? 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like you're always a couple handshakes away from everybody. Like that night we went out there for Term's thing, it was like, you know, Graph and like Fabian and Exit Fame and like
Static was
there. Like everybody in the scene, it's like they're just out there. That's a regular night for them. But for us, it's like eye opening. We're like, oh, this is cool.
I mean, because we you know, it's the process of having like a normal job. You know what I mean? Like you got to be around for your day job. You know, you can't like. You want to get to that point of, you know, you want rapping to be your job, but like, you know, you take the sums of what you get. You know what I mean? But yeah, that night was super eye-opening. That's I think other than Mike Sanchez, you are the only other person from like the scene I've been to New York with.
Yeah, man. So I mean, that's the Mecca, right? Like it's like for them, it's just like another day. You know, I think Boston has the stigma of like, you know, people hating on a lot of shit coming out, and like it's harder to break out here, and like you have to, like Term even said that to me personally. He's like, I hit a glass ceiling here. I had to go to New York, but like. I mean, I think what people like you and what Jack has done and what Mike does, you know, with Turntable Teachers, like all the platforms that we have here to really elevate the scene and you guys go to all these shows and you guys make sure that you're pushing out content and you're getting people like us to have a platform.
Right.
You were one of the first interviews I did. You know, Amir, Max, Mike, like my guy Abe, like you guys really elevate the scene and the culture, and we're able to tell our stories in a different way than we do through our music. And I feel like that's dope. And like, I appreciate that, man.
No, of course. And that's very humbling for myself and stuff like that, because, you know, some people say the stigma with shows are, oh, it's the same people, but it's like, you know, it's the right people.
I don't believe that stigma, by the way.
I don't believe it either.
I think that's dead at this point.
I don't believe it either. But it's like,
yeah.
It's good to know that, like, the people within the scene, if someone says, for example, you know, Castle's got a show next Friday at Sania, it's like, are you going to this? It's like, yes. You know, it's you going to that? Yeah. You know, you got the show in Hampton Beach coming up. But it's like, those people should be at that shows, because yes, while we highlight people, we're still a fan of these people. You know,
yeah.
We could have these, you know, private conversations and stuff like that. You know, we could say we're boys, brothers, friends, all that. But what makes it good is that we're also fans. So when I mean by we're fans is saying, like, if we go out to California, Vegas, you know, wherever, overseas, we're gonna be like, all right, do you have music in Boston and Massachusetts? Like, yes. It's like, okay, what artists you got? I'm gonna give them a litany of lists and a litany of fucking names. And your name, David, Nique, Tiggy, Robbie, you know.
Chow just went to Japan with
right,
crime.
Exactly. Trust me. Like, I heard the stories. Trust me, they trying to get me out there, but yeah. But exactly. That's
like,
the point. It's like,
this shit
you know,
can go far, man. It's like hip hop is so global, bro. Like,
it's the
in
number
Europe,
one,
like,
it's the number one genre in the world.
like what people deem underground here, that, you know, if you can tour and sell merch and sell vinyls and like go over to Europe and like do shows, you're lit. Like,
right.
People think that if you're not
you don't
on a Billboard 40 song, then you're not lit.
Signed.
Like,
it's,
that's
if
not how it
you
works.
do that, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good, because you know that contingent of people is there.
And it's tangible. It's tangible to know that, like, you could put your stuff directly on Bandcamp, or you could sell your merch like David and I have done at shows, and like,
right.
People are giving you real money for your art and your product, and it's like, that's all you can be grateful for, bro. Like, I get down on myself with like Instagram sometimes, right? It's like, oh, like the algorithm's trash.
Bro.
Like, I have this many followers and I'm not getting this many amount of likes and comments, but then I see people in person at shows, they buy my hoodie, they buy my album on Bandcamp. It's like, that's a dream, bro.
Right.
Like, we already made it.
Right.
You know what
Exactly.
I mean? Like, people actually like putting their hard-earned money to buy your art. Like,
right,
that's,
exactly.
That's
it's
incredible.
crazy. And that takes me back to another story. So at Bloomfest, shout out to Bloomfest, by the way.
Yes, sir.
One of, I think he was from Lynn. He was wearing a Say That hoodie, and I wasn't even wearing a Say That hoodie. I was like,
You didn't know who it was?
Mikey. Was it Mikey? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I forget
Shout
his
out to
name.
Mikey.
I'm sorry.
Shout out to Mikey. Come on.
Because I was like, oh my God. I'm like, that's just crazy to see that in the wild like that. You know what I mean?
And
right.
You never met him.
No. I met him the night you did the From 108 World with Love headline show at the Garden.
The Garden.
Yeah.
We lit.
One day. Hold on. One day.
We outside for real.
The Jungle.
Yeah.
And I think because that was the first night I was having people buy hoodies. But
Legendary show.
right, exactly. That was crazy. That's
show.
up there on YouTube, by the way. That's one of my favorite performances of Flow Machines ever. I didn't say that yet, but that is.
That's the first time we linked with Chuck too. He did the recap.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
I didn't even see. You know what's crazy? I didn't even say hi to Chow right there that night.
Yeah.
And I look at it now. He's doing all my beats. He's texting me every fucking day. You know what I mean? I love that dude. But see, that's just more stories that, like, when you see where we are right now, it's like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy. It's like, you don't even think about that every day, but when it comes up in, like, the subject, it's like, wow. Like, we're really out here, like, highlighting each other. We're really out here, like, showing love to everybody. So that's why it's crazy like that. But one thing about yourself, you just dropped a little project, and like Mike Scarfo says, death, taxes, and fire Jeff Porter EP. So
I don't think he put the fire in there, so we're gonna have to get on Mike's ass.
no, right, yeah.
Pause.
But hold on, time out. But they're like it
I gotta follow your lead, Pete.
I think we need a shirt that says death, taxes, and Jeff Porter EPs. I think that needs to be on a shirt.
I think we can make that happen.
If you could tell the good audience right now, what is out from you right now.
Yeah, man. New EP. It's called Something to Feel. It's 7 tracks. 2 of them already came out. All My Time and Marvelous.
Yep.
Marvelous is kind of a new pocket for me, and it kind of like it's right in the middle of the album with like a bunch of introspective, like serious shit. Like I did that intentionally to like kind of break up the mood a little bit, but yeah, man. Like the last 2 EPs, the Appetizer Part 2 and Real Smooth Pack were more like just getting bars off and just like having fun, but I wanted to bring it back to like, you know, some shit I went through like early 2024.
Right.
A few people close to me that passed, and like a lot of serious content. And I was kind of just sitting on that music for a while. And I wanted to give a different side of me as an artist. So that's where the title came in. Is like, you know, there's a little bit of emotion on each track. Like if you're an artist, it's a song for you, praise to us. If you've gone through loss, like don't know why. You know, lighter fluid if you're going through like regular everyday life shit that everybody goes through. Like I feel like there's something for everybody, even if you're not a fan of hip hop. So that's kind of what I was trying to do with the project. But yeah, it's a special project to me for sure. I think it's one of my best pieces of art, and check it out if you haven't.
No, I definitely do too, because that's one thing I've experienced with your music. You tell it as it is. You know, you're not really like, the lyrics you say are the lyrics you live. You know, you're not faking anything, and I think that's like, because we see that a lot in the bigger rap game. You know,
Yeah, man.
So
you gotta be yourself, man. Like
for the
people are gonna
independence-
see through that. If you're not yourself,
right.
you know, like.
Well, like even Term said on my podcast, he's like, don't give up, but know when to give up. You know, it's a long game. People are going to know when to weed you out. So if you're not coming correct, then you can't come at all. Pause. But that's like what? That's the 5th time tonight? All right.
Drinking game.
All right, sorry.
Shit.
Yeah, seriously,
Nah.
literally.
No,
Yeah.
but it's real. And like, you know, I think authenticity is like, same thing with consistency. I think nobody could take authenticity away from you. Like if you're just like being yourself, you're not trying to be someone else. Like, what am I gonna go like talk about some shit that I'm not involved in? Like people are gonna be like, bro, I know how you grew up. Like I know, like, you know what I mean? It's just, but to your point, it's like, you know, you could be a student of this shit and like just spill your heart into everything. Yeah. And I think that's gonna resonate with people way more than like trying to put up a facade, because like, you know, there's still a lot of that going on in the game from all levels. Like people coming up, people that have been established, like people can see through that shit. And I can never be me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think because how the scene connects through social media, especially in Boston, because like I said, when I started the podcast Instagram, that's how I knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally how I'm coming across a lot of people. So I think it's important how people experience each other. Because I remember having this conversation with Groovy the first time I met him at
Shout out to Groovy.
on Revere Beach. I forget the name of the venue there.
Sammy's Patio.
Sammy's Patio. Yes, you're right. And I was like, yo, I'm Repeat 617. He's like, oh, you're so, and then from then, you know, we grown a great bond. You know, he's a great friend of mine. But that's it. That's why it's good to talk to someone like yourself, TJ, Nique, and David. You know, we're authentic people. We're not like, you know, what we say on Instagram is not what we're gonna say in real life. We're really like, this is who we are. You know, because the veil of social media is ever so present. Like, for example, today, there's a dude at the Garden right now, right? He's performing at the Garden right now. 21 million followers. I didn't even know about him until today.
Yeah.
So maneuvering that veil of social media is so important if you're an artist, and just making the right connections, that exactly what you're doing. So that's why I got to give you a lot of credit for it, because you're not scared to be like, yo, I'm Jeff Porter. This is what I do. What's your name? You know what I'm saying? Because that term, I mean, I've seen you do it a lot, but that term, you know, album release party kind of like opened my eyes really, because, you know, we're in New York. It's the Mecca, bro. You don't know who's going to pull the fuck up.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
they say your network is your net worth, right? And it's like, from, you know, I work a corporate job and I go to a lot of events and things like that. So I think naturally I have more of that outgoing, like extroverted personality when I'm in those settings where I think there's potential business to be made, or, you know, there's opportunities where I can meet someone who might be able to, you know, put me in a certain room, like I said on the cypher. Right. And if you just go up to people and you're genuine, you're just like, yo, I fuck with your shit, like I'm a big fan, and like on some reality, like, you know, I like what you're doing. What are people gonna like? People are gonna be receptive to that, and because it's genuine, right? You're not trying to, it's not gimmicky, you know, it's genuine. So I think, you know, being outside and going to events and like showing up to people's concerts, I think a lot of artists at a certain level might feel that they're either above that or they don't like still need to do that. And I think people notice, right? Like people have come up to me and said, like, I've seen you being very intentional where you show up and you come to certain things and you support people. And it's like, yeah, man, that's just kind of that's how I was raised. But
I think it's the easiest thing to do. You know what I mean? Unless you have
it's free.
something, right? Unless you have something else to do, you know, you'll see me at these different shows and stuff like that. But you're absolutely correct. Like, there's been shows that I didn't know you were pulling up to that I've seen you there. Like, oh, you pulled up, like, you know. So that's why it's good that the scene goes around. And yes, there may be the same crowd at certain shows, but like, while that is also isn't true, it's also good to see that people there still supporting.
Yeah, because like I genuinely like, and I'm a fan of so many artists in the scene because like I'm a child of like underground hip hop where it's like I don't care. I'd rather listen to a guy who has 10,000 monthly listeners versus like the most mainstream dude. I like lyrics, I like bars. So like I find that stuff. I've always found that stuff and seeked it out. And I don't care about following or clout or anything like that. Like I care about talent. And, like if you're a good person, like you know, and that's all. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. So. Right. So before we get out of here, Jeff, you're the last episode of Say That 100. I mean, the last guest, excuse me, of Say That 100. What is left in 2025 for Jeff Porter?
Shout out to Mike. We got a couple more EPs coming.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah. No, a couple more EPs. David and I have been sitting on one for a while. We got Zay on there.
Mm-hmm.
We got
that's another 2-time Say That guest
man. Shout out to Zay. That boy's different. But yeah, other than that, I mean, the stuff with David is like I always drop solo stuff, but me and T are gonna run it back. Me and T, the truth. So he produced my first 2 solo albums. He did all the beats. He rapped on a couple joints throughout the 2 projects, but this one's a little bit different where we're both rapping on it. And like he's doing like half the beats. And the dope thing about working with T is like I have all these beats from YouTube and I'm like, yo, this shit's hard. Like he hops on it, he thinks it's dope, and then he's like, we don't really need to lease that. Like I'll just remake the beat. I'll find that sample, I'll remake it.
Solid.
And I'm like, yeah, it saves us money. Yeah. And like usually, like that's what we did with Space Coupe.
Right.
That was like a Conductor Williams type beat from YouTube, and T's like, nah, I'll flip that, and he made it way better. So I'm excited about that project to see what he does with the remaining beats. But also, we got some dudes on there that I'm really proud of. Like we got Meech Bold from Van Buren on there.
Shout out to that.
We got Big Shug from Gangstar's son Tremaine. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Tremaine. We got Tremaine on there. We got Triz One. Probably still I'm gonna need a Nique feature on there at some point.
Always
David's on
feature.
there. We'll see if we squeeze Tiggy, you know, all the homies. But if not, we'll continue to work with these guys. Flow Machines 2 is def coming at some point. But yeah, I'm really proud of the album with T because you know, he's my engineer and he's also producing, he's also rapping on there. So like it's just a natural synergy I have with him, other than like what I have with David. Like what I have with David is special, but me and David worked a little differently, like me and T in a certain sense, because like the music's a little different and like the end product, but it's just a different process, and it's fun to work that muscle. But look out for that. That should come out this summer, hopefully.
Fuck with that.
Yeah.
And I forgot to do this to the last 2 guests, but I will shout out their Instagrams right now. You can follow Nique at Nique Rose on IG, and David Ryan. It's David Ryan 108 on IG. Jeff, where can they follow you? Because I forgot to say that to the 2 of them.
Yeah, Jeff Porter.
Follow.
Just, you know, my full name on all streaming platforms. At Jeff Porter _real smooth on IG, and I think it's at Jeff Porter _108 on Twitter, but Twitter's whack.
Word. Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. Jeff, thank you, my brother.
My man.
This is the 3rd
Appreciate
time
you.
on here. You already know. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time. Can we give it up?
Make
for
some
Jeff
noise
Porter,
for Pete.
please?
Make some noise for Pete one time. Where's the champagne at?
Champagne at. All right.
Hell yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this was Say That episode 100, and I cannot be more thankful. Thank you to everyone who attended tonight. You know, this was a long time coming in the making. You know, a lot of stuff has happened in between episode 1 and 100, so the journey has been just absolutely unbelievable. If you've been a constant follower of the podcast, I appreciate you. You know, I hope to give you more stuff soon. Right now, I can only give you stickers, but, you know, there's tons of more content on the way. I really hope to be dropping weekly now instead of bi-weekly.
Let's go.
To give you these more stories, because there's so many stories yet unheard in the scene that have not been on Say That. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate every single one of you for being here right now. As always, you know, I'm going to end it like I always do. You can follow me on Instagram, REPETE617. And the podcast Instagram, say_that_pod. And I take great pleasure in saying this, and I hope everyone here can help me out. But y'all know the drill. Don't say this.
Say that.
We're out. Thank you.